my name is Sycra, and today I'm going to be doing a critique of a picture one of the forum members posted in the critique section of the Sycra.net forums. Okay, so what we have here is, looks like a lizard warrior guy, and this looks to be dragon wings, I guess, and there's an arrow. And I'm not sure, but I think the body of the dragon is behind a hill and this guy's coming over. Anyway, it reminds me a lot of like a Skyrim type image. So, what do I like about it? Well, this design is nice of this lizard. You've obviously put in time to get the scales, and you've really tried to render things. I can see that. You've used a custom brush for the grass, and it's okay. It kind of stands out to me. But the thing that really strikes me about this image is there's a lack of focus, and the values are quite similar in everything. It's all kind of grayish. You've got, in some ways, you've got a nice spread. Like you have this sky, that's great. I really like what you're doing with the mist or the fog, how that's coming around. But it's getting kind of muddy as well. And there's areas like this, like a splotchy area where it kind of looks like, why would this be dark? Maybe it's a shadow in a cloud, or maybe it's a distant mountain that you can't really see. But if that's the case, it's not exactly working. And another thing is the composition you have right now with this figure, the way he is. He's kind of like, here's the image. This is our framing. He's roughly in the middle, but not quite. He's just a bit off center of the middle. And then there's this big wing here. So a lot, and there's this big mountain. So a lot of the important stuff, or the eye-catching stuff, is on this side here on the left. And then you have a big empty space here, a big negative space here. So it's like everything is pushed to this side, and my eye wants to fall off the page down here. See, when I see this, my eye goes up this mountain and up this wing shape, comes down, it rides down his arm, and then the sword and everything else kind of pushes me off the page. What you want to do is try and keep the eye on the page, especially on the focus, which is the sky, this lizard, and perhaps whatever he's killed here, if it's a dragon, and I'd like to see more of it because it seems important. So the first thing I want to do is reposition him. So let's do that. I'm gonna select him with the lasso tool. And I'm going to move him in this area. Now the reason that's going to help doing this is because now we have this big empty area, and that's going to act like a frame for this guy. So immediately now he's framed better. And I'm thinking about it as I'm thinking about the rule of thirds here, where if you divide the image, let me just deselect this and then show you on a new layer. If I divide the image in 3, and in 3 this way, the rule of thirds states that you should put your focal points on one of these intersections or on one of these lines. And having him on this line, this third, and the focal point of his head being right here creates a balanced composition. It's pleasing to the eye. Whereas putting things right in the middle or too close to the edge, it's unsettling. It can work for iconic compositions. A central symmetrical composition works great, but for this type of view, especially if you want to keep it dynamic, it's better to stick it on a third. So that's one thing. And I'll just quickly paint in the mountain. And the way I'm going to paint the mountain is I'm going to create it so this line points to him, points back to our main character. I'm going to try and have everything kind of point back to him. So this mountain is kind of going off the page to the right. Instead, I'm going to have it pointing back to him. So our eye comes around this way and then it goes back to him, comes this way. The sword too. You can have the sword pointing towards whatever this focus is, the dragon or whatever. So get that in. And I'm just going to get rid of some of this grass because I don't like that custom brush look. It works like if you had done everything with a custom brush, and maybe you did, maybe these clouds kind of look like they were used with a custom brush, but you really have to know how to use custom brushes, otherwise it stands out a lot. So I got rid of that. So now we have this guy coming over. Now another thing you've done that's quite catching is that you have this dark in this mountain. Now what happens when you put a real dark in something in the background is it's going to bring it forward. And if you want to create depth, you don't want to do that. Now you have this mist here, which is great, but the way you've treated the mist is it's a bit like you have it going around forms, like this mountain, you have the mist coming around. Think in terms of broad atmosphere. So what I'm going to do is I'll take some of this color or value in the sky. I'm using a big brush now, and this is just the regular default hard round. So here it is, number 1. Under the settings, I have on other dynamics, I have the opacity and the flow set to pen pressure. Shape dynamics, is there anything here? Nope. And my spacing is let's see, I want the spacing to be around 7% is good. So this is just a default type brush, nothing too fancy. Hardness is at 100%. I'm going to reduce that to 0% is fine. That's just going to give me like an airbrush, so it's soft, has soft edges. And I'm going to lower the opacity I'm going to lower the flow to like 27. Okay, so now I have my brush set up, and you can see this is a big brush. It's like bigger than half his body. And I'm gonna take some of this sky, just gonna knock all this back. Then I'm gonna use the eraser to erase the parts I didn't want knocked back. And I did this on a separate layer, so that's why I can erase back, otherwise that wouldn't have worked. So now I push the mountain back, and maybe that's a bit too much, so I just reduce the opacity. That's good. And you can see what that did. Took that mountain and it just pushed it back. But it looks a bit empty now since we did that. And what you can do is, I'm just going to merge this layer down. I'm using Control E to merge it down. Then I'm just going to make another layer, just in case I screw up. Or if I need to do something like erase things out. And I'm going to put in some more mountains. So near the top of this mountain, I'm going to let it get a bit darker. I'm going to select this mountain color, and I'm going to increase the hardness of my brush to 100 is fine. I'm going to put in some more mountains in the background, and they're getting lighter in value as they go back. Close to the base of those mountains, I let it get lighter so that it kind of looks like there's fog back there. And doing this is also going to help me with shapes that can point back to this main character. And having this dark mountain here, it's going to bring out this sword. So you want to play with that, like have light things against dark things and dark things against light things. Can lighten up the base of this mountain so it looks like, again, you have that mist. Just lowering the hardness, and I'm gonna push the opacity down a bit just so I have more control over this mist. And I'm using a big brush. I'm gonna bring some lighter lights into the background too, because right now there's not too much bright stuff in here, and you don't need a lot of lights, but having some would be nice. And I'm gonna use everything like this mist coming around. I'm gonna use this to push this element, the dragon wing, forward. So now we have this mist coming around, and we have this guy coming over this ledge. So now we've pushed things back, but we kind of have to do the opposite now, which is to bring areas that are in focus more in focus. So I'll create a new layer, and this one's looking fine, so I'm just going to merge that one down. And I'm going to put in some darks now. So this is all going to get dark because this is close to us. When things are close, they have more contrast, meaning you're going to have more dark darks and more light lights. Bring some dark in here. Maybe on his body, just because I'm not sure where this light's coming from. It looks like it's pretty overcast. So that means things can get a bit brighter and you don't get such dark shadows when things are overcast, but still, it's good to have some darks so that we can lead our eye around. I'm gonna make his sword catch a pretty sharp highlight. So I just changed the hardness there. And same with other parts of this metal. I think this is metal anyway, his armor. So I'm just gonna add some more highlights to that stuff. And it's just creating a bit of a separation. Now what I'd like to do if this was my design, for instance, I would like to have more of a breakup in his design. See, right now his face is like one value, this kind of a gray value, but his armor's about the same value, and then goes back to this gray for his pants. See here, like there's a lot of mid-tone grays in here. It would be nice if there was a bit more variation in the local value. And by local value I mean, like, if this was a color, if the shield was red, then it's like a red shield. Doesn't matter if it's in shadow or in light, you still know it's a red shield. Well, red would be the local value. So I want to add a bit more variety. So I'm going to have some things that are a bit darker in local value and some areas that are lighter. Or that's what I would do for the design anyway. So maybe give him something to break this up. Maybe something that's light. I mean, this is all personal opinion. You could have dark armor if you wanted, or keep it so it's all like steel and things. I just think the more variety and variation you can have in your image, it's just going to make it stronger. It's going to make it more pleasing. Now there's something about how he's walking that's a bit odd. It looks kind of like he's creeping up on this guy. Especially how this back leg is going behind like that. And that's kind of cool if he is creeping up like that. But then it really makes me wonder, what's he creeping up on? So I think if you were gonna redo this image, whatever this is, this wing, it's not working. I would do something else with it. Make it something else, or because you have to think, when you're making an illustration, you're telling a story, but what story are you telling if we just see there's a wing here and a wing here, and this wing has an arrow in it, and there's this guy coming towards this. You get that he's a hunter of some sort, but he doesn't have a bow, so he's not the one who shot the arrow in. And like, where's he going? What's he doing? You really have to ask yourself these kind of questions. So he's coming up this hill type thing, and I don't know, I'm changing your image a lot here, but yeah, I won't. I'm not going to make this too complicated, because I was going to add like a big dragon here, but then I thought, no, it's okay if I just help you with the background, and otherwise this is going to become a super long critique, much longer than it needs to be. But whatever this is, remember that you can highlight it with this mist. A good idea maybe would have been to really thumbnail this out and make a bunch of different thumbnails and see which one you like, which one works as an image, and what is this? Like, what is the story? Instead of just kind of creating a character and then thinking, okay, now I have a character, I have to put him in a background, and then looking for a background to place him in. It's better to start with the story. Have this guy and he's chasing dragons and he comes upon a fallen dragon, and I don't know, like, come up with stories. And here I'm just playing a bit with his silhouette because it seems a bit, how can I put it? Like, these lines are very straight. Like his silhouette. It's all kind of straight, and it gives you this stiff look. What I'm trying to do is create more movement and variety. So if I get this V shape, instantly he's going to look more powerful. And then if this leg is more bent and then this leg's more bent, I mean, it's not the best pose, but it's a bit better. You've got more movement in here. And you had some light, if I zoom in here, you have some rim light coming on this side of his face, or light from very much this side. So let's see, you did kind of play with it, put it around the shield, but then you didn't have it on this side of the wing. You didn't have it, you had it a little bit on this leg. But I think you could play with that more if you wanted to do that. You wanted to have a strong light coming from this area. Could add it to this mountain and then to the side of this wing. And then you could really have some highlights on his armor where the light hits, because it's metal, right? So it's gonna have pretty strong highlights. And had it on the shield. Can use it to bring that leg forward. I kind of wanted to push this diagonal a bit more so that everything's kind of sloping towards this guy. But I don't know, maybe that doesn't work. Anyway, just things like using a big brush are also going to help you a lot. And since the light's coming from here and this is grass, it might pick up some highlights. I'm really curious about whatever this is. I don't know. Anyway, so I think that's a lot of information for this critique, and I hope you can get something out of it at least. But it looks like you're putting in a lot of work and you're pushing yourself, so that's all great, and I'm not too worried about what you're doing, because you are working, and that's really the most important thing. And you've got some cool designs, so yeah, keep it up. And that's it. I'll do a quick before and after so people can see the differences. So this is my little take on it, and this is before, after. You can see how it's just a lot more focused on this guy, and whatever, I don't know what I put here, like a dragon skull thing. Yeah,